Let's change some eye color here inside of Photoshop. Now I'm going to start with this example. This is a nice simple example where you have fairly uniform colored eyes. And then we're going to step it up and I'm going to step you through this example. Now this is a far more realistic real world example where you actually have an eye which already has a bit of color variation within it. Now guys, in both examples, we're going to be adding a hue and saturation adjustment layer, but we will be having to manipulate that mask. By manipulate, I just mean using the paintbrush to paint on that mask. So let's jump into a blank document and let's quickly go through in about 1 minute everything you need to know about painting, okay? Tap the B key to bring up the brush tool. Now, when you're painting on masks, which we're going to do in a minute, you generally want to be painting with either black or white. Pressing the D key, D for default, will give you foreground and background colors of black and white. So right now we would be painting with black. If you wish to reverse the black and the white, the foreground and the background, just press the X key and you will then find yourself painting with white. So pressing the X key to give me black again. If I just draw a line, that's what I get. If I need to change the two major options for a brush, I can just right mouse click on the canvas. Those two major options being the size. If I reduce that down and I paint, get a nice thin line, bring up the size, paint again, nice thick line. The other option is the hardness. Now it's currently set to 0%, which explains these nice fuzzy lines. If I bring that all the way up to 100% and draw, that's the result that I get. Actually guys, I have an entire video which explains why you get these little jagged edges. Feel free to check that out if you like. It's not going to actually interfere with anything we do today. Now in this case, I want something a little in between a hard and a soft brush. So if I right mouse click, I'm going to change the hardness down to 50%. And if I bring the size down a little bit, that's looking pretty great. Okay, everything you need to know about brushes. So let's come back into our first example, this one just here. I have my layers panel just here. At the bottom of it, there's a little black and white yin-yang looking symbol. If I click on that, this will allow me to add adjustment layers. Let's add a hue and saturation adjustment layer. Now with it selected, the properties for that adjustment layer will show up here within the properties panel. And in this case, I'm just going to grab the hue slider and drag that either to the left or the right. Now notice the entire face is changing. So I'm just going to drop it there for now. And what we need to do is now start playing with this mask. So if I click on the mask, I want to draw your attention to the fact that everything here is white. So with masks, white reveals, black conceals. So anywhere where the mask is white, this adjustment layer will be applied to the image. As a good starting point, we want all of this to be not white, but black. So with the mask selected, if I press Command or Control I, that's the keyboard shortcut for invert, you'll see everything that was white is now black. So all we have to do now, guys, is if we zoom in here, with our paintbrush, we just need to paint on the mask with white over the eyes to bring that effect back. So B for paintbrush, D for our default colors, X to switch between black and white. I've now got white, targeting my mask, and let's now paint just in here. Now, of course, the color's looking a little crazy, but we're going to change that in a second. I'll just paint the other one just in here like so. I just pointed out, guys, if you make a mistake, like, whoops, painted some area just inside of here, no worries, just press your X key to switch to painting with black, and then you can just paint that area out like so. So now we can just sit back and play with the colors. So if I select the hue and saturation adjustment layer thumbnail just here, I can now dial in whatever hue I like. And what's great is, guys, it's not just the hue that you can play with, but also there's a saturation value just here. So if you want this to look hyper not realistic, you can dial the saturation all the way up. If you want it to look more realistic, bring that saturation right down. And again, you can tweak this to your heart's content. So if I zoom out just there, so if I turn the visibility of this layer off, that's the original just there, where she has brown eyes. Now she has hazelish eyes. Let's jump over into this second example. Now everything that I showed you is still valid for working on this image, but I'm going to show you there's a small complication and how we can easily fix that. So bottom of the layers panel, add a hue and saturation adjustment layer. Let's take this thing for a crazy spin just to see, yes, it is indeed changing color. And you can actually see, I'll point this out just now, guys. You can see when I drag this around, you see this hue slider, what it does is it pushes all of the colors in your image by an equal amount in a different direction. So all of the colors in here are getting shifted, but the problem is there's some combinations where it just looks really, really wrong. And again, I'm going to show you how we can address that in just a minute. Let's select our mask. Command or Control I to invert. Press B to bring up the brush. D for our default colors. Press X if I need to. I've got white, got the mask targeted, and I'm just going to paint in that area just here over the eye. Looking good. And let's just go and do the other eye. And of course, if I need to increase the brush size, guys, just right mouse click and increase the size. Probably should have done that a little earlier, but there we go. Okay, we've got some wacky looking eyes going on just here. You can see I'm kind of liking this green, but what's going on with this purpley stuff just in here, right? You can see that, again, I'll click on the Hue and Saturation thumbnail just here. No matter what hue I dial in, it kind of just doesn't look quite right. So I want to introduce you to this Colorize button just down here. Now, if I activate that, what this is doing is this is no longer shifting all of the colors in the image. This is basically saying, make all of the colors this particular color. So in this case, if I dial in, say, a green, a very saturated green, you can see all of that area is being made that color. So when Colorize is off, remember it's shifting colors. When Colorize is on, it's making everything within this area that particular color. Now, I've made a super intense green just here, right? So what I'm thinking is I would now like to blend this green into the original color that we actually had. So if I turn the visibility of this layer off just there, that's where we were starting. So I'll turn that back on. Now in this case, we don't want all or nothing. We want something in between. So with that layer selected, at the top of the layers panel, I'm going to start lowering the opacity. So if I start to bring this opacity down, and if I bring it way down to something like around 30%, if I turn it off and on, you can see, let's zoom out a little bit just here, we have now created ourselves, yes, this is slightly unrealistic, I admit, but that's actually not too bad as well. It looks like she's got some pretty intense eyes. Maybe we're making some sci-fi just here. And if that's the case, maybe I'll bring that opacity right up. I was trying to make something ridiculously out there. Now, of course, guys, this is all still live. So this hue slider just here, maybe I want something more like blue eyes. This is kind of interesting. That looks pretty good. Maybe I'll drop the opacity down just a touch. Okay, so that's at the 34% mark just there. So that's it there, guys. I might leave it at that point just there. I hope that gives you some good ideas on how you can actually color eyes here within Photoshop. Catch you later.